Normally the misconception is if you've got fever or an illness, your insulin requirement goes down or people don't need to take insulin. But on the contrary, if you've got an illness, your insulin requirement may go up because the same amount of insulin may not be as effective.
I've got a headache and a sore throat.
I'm a right grump, and I.
Well, when she's having a hypo or hyper, she gets quite grumpy with the mood and quite snappy when you talk to her.
My name is Rydym. I am 9 and I have type 1 diabetes.
You can get high levels going 3 days before he actually shows symptoms of being ill, and he comes down with something. You know, then you're thinking, oh, that's why his levels have been all over the place.
When it first happened, that would make me panic because I'd think, well, what's wrong with him? Has he eaten too much? Is it this, is it that? And now, when this happens, I know to expect a snuffly nose or a bug or a virus or, whatever.
If you understand what might be going on inside your body when you're unwell, you have the best chance of controlling your blood glucose levels. Because let's face it, being ill when you've got type 1 diabetes can be tough.
You just want to be left alone and hide under the duvet. But, it's important that you do these tests because of the diabetes.
If your glucose rises high enough and your ketones rise high enough, you can end up in an emergency situation called diabetic ketoacidosis, when you need to come to hospital and have drip fluids and drip insulin. And so the sick day rules are aimed at preventing that from happening.
My sugar levels are 10.2, so I need to give myself a bolus. They were 5.9 this morning. I've had 2 cups of tea and a cup of coffee, just with milk, and water. I've had no food at all. So obviously it's the cold that's caused the sugar levels to rise. So I'm going to then scroll down to illness, okay? And then press again. And what it'll say, because I'm ill, they've given me an extra 0.1 of a unit.
When the body is under attack, it produces hormones like cortisol. The job of cortisol is to put the body in fight mode, flooding it with glucose as an immediate energy source to battle any infection or illness. It stops any glucose being stored by reducing the powers of insulin, and the liver joins in the glucose production fest.
When it's high, my vision is blurry and a lot of floaters. Your head feels as though it doesn't belong to you. And it's the irritation as well, you get very grumpy and irritated. The thirst is horrendous. I'll drink a full glass in one go, and then I want more.
And there's a reason for that.
Think about it. If glucose is more, you're trying to weigh out this glucose. That means you are weighing out more water as such, and you're getting dehydrated. So the dehydration this is a protective mechanism by the brain, so it makes you drink more.
Jane drank more water when she caught her daughter's sickness and diarrhoea bug. No matter what the illness, the drill's the same. Drink plenty, test regularly.
As soon as my sugars tend to go over a 14, I think it is really, really important to check for ketones because they can come on so quickly and obviously they can cause so lasting damage if they're not treated. So if you notice that there even is a mild trace of ketones, no matter how much you're sick, you just need to make sure that you're pumping yourself full of water.
Ketones are produced in the body when it burns fat for energy instead of glucose. If you're short of insulin to open your cells and allow your body to use glucose for energy, that glucose will stay in the bloodstream and your body instead will burn more fat, increasing the number of ketones. These two in combination increase the acidity in your body, which can lead to complications. The best way to check them is with a blood glucose meter. Trouble is, testing for ketones is yet another thing to remember.
Don't like doing checks, don't like injecting, and it's boring.
I must admit, before now, he's been poorly for a few days, Ren, and I might not have checked his ketones because I've just forgotten, which is bonkers, really. It's a different meter, you see, and sometimes it doesn't pop into the forefront of your mind. But I do remember our previous nurse saying that you can still have high ketones when your blood glucose range is perfect.
One of the ways the body responds to a period when it hasn't had food is to make ketones as an alternative fuel. So sometimes if you test ketones when you haven't eaten for a long period of time, you can notice them. If you're well and your glucose is normal, then that's probably why they're there, and you should probably have some food and check again in a couple of hours.
Normal range is less than 0.6.
In the kind of green category, your ketones are below 0.6. You don't need any extra insulin, you just might need to keep monitoring things.
If they're between 0.6 and 1.5, check your glucose and ketone levels every 2 to 4 hours. Give an extra 10% of your total daily insulin dose as additional fast-acting insulin.
Or if you don't know that, you can use the most recent body weight and give 1/10 of that. So if someone weighed 45 kilograms, you'd give them 4.5 units of insulin.
If you have a pump, then give this dose with a pen rather than through the pump. If you find that you're doing this frequently, consider raising the background insulin temporarily, but check with your diabetes team if you're unsure.
The red category, above 1.5 ketones, we'd say to give twice that amount. So either 20% of your normal amount you have in a day, or a fifth of your body weight.
If it goes up to 3, then take that as a warning that you're at risk of developing ketoacidosis, where the acidity level can damage your body. If ketones measure over 3, you need immediate emergency treatment.
We're not saying this to scare you. We're saying this because we know that if you recognise illness early and do some relatively straightforward, simple things, it can keep patients out of hospital, which everybody wants to see.
We've put a lot of emphasis on being physically ill, but don't forget that the consequences of stress have a similar effect on your hormones. Cortisol is released in spades when you're under pressure, pushing your blood glucose levels up and reducing the action of your insulin.
We lost Mum in December, and I couldn't understand why I was, even though I had the pump on, why I was having so many high readings. And then we sold the house, and then clearing the house had caused my sugar levels to rise, and my HbA1c had just shot right up again.
I can go from 5, maybe 2, and I've actually sometimes gone to 18 if it's been a very stressful argument.
We can just go back, we go straight back and we can carry on with things, whereas for him, it could be 4 hours then if he has to correct himself.
With the kind of emotional kind of stresses, perhaps you're not necessarily looking to test ketones and give correction doses of insulin all the time, but perhaps it's learning to manage stress, recognise when it happens, why it happens, and I guess learn about your own response from a diabetes point of view to stress.
Not least because high glucose levels, whether from stress or illness, will also compromise your ability to fight infection, as Alex found out soon after the removal of an ingrowing toenail.
Well, I had a severe infection on my toes. I didn't feel right in myself, and I'm sure my sugars and ketones were probably high. It was so quick. We went to A&E and I had to get a huge dose of antibiotics, and they said it's very serious.
Keeping good glucose and ketone level records can really help you understand how you respond to stress and illness. Here's some good advice in case things feel out of control.
I just say to remain calm and to write things down actually.
Planning that phone call just for 30 seconds so you've got that information available is probably going to make it less stressful when you're on the phone, and will probably help the diabetes doctor or nurse on the other end give you better advice.
When you phone the hospital, they'll ask you what they've last eaten, what they've last had to drink, exercise, a variety of things. And I remember the first time I ever phoned up, I couldn't remember anything that I was supposed to say on the phone. How many carbohydrates did he have? And I thought, God, I can't even remember what he last had to eat because I was so tired.
Even though you're mostly worrying about hypers, don't forget that hypos can still happen when you're ill.
I woke up and Jane was hitting me in the back in the night, and she kept doing it, and I just got fed up, so I thought I'll go downstairs to sleep. And then as I was walking past her, she just started shouting and screaming. And I thought, that's a bit strange, never done that before. And I tried to wake her up and she wouldn't wake. She was just unresponsive. And then she started screaming again. And so I thought, what could it be? And the thing I think of was, is she having hypo? So checked the blood sugars, and I think it was a 1.4 at the time, so it was really low. So luckily we got a glucagon injection in the fridge.
I could have, perhaps have slipped into a coma, judging by how far gone I was. And obviously I don't remember anything of what happened until I woke up in the morning, which is really frightening, feeling like you've lost a chunk like that. So definitely keep one at hand. I keep one in the house and I also keep one in work.
Everybody who has type 1 diabetes needs one at home, and parents need to check in the fridge that it's in date. It should be on repeat prescription with your GP, and the diabetes nurses will train you how and when to use it if ever that was necessary.
If you're looking after a young child with diabetes, or if you have it yourself, we know that it requires constant vigilance and energy to keep on top of it. When illness comes along of any sort, it's harder still.
Working with families, I've found that once they're been through illness a couple of times, they've gained a lot of confidence from the experience.
I don't know, just get on with it.
If you remember nothing else, then test more regularly when you or a member of your family are ill. And if your glucose level is over 40 millibars per litre, then remember to test for ketones too. With children, you should test for ketones as soon as you notice that they're ill. Meanwhile, ask your GP for a blood glucose monitor that also measures ketones. And if diarrhoea and sickness are on the horizon, have a glucagon injection to hand just in case. Then you've done everything you can. For more information, see the Diabetes UK website.
Don't be too brave. Be sensible. Use your common sense and listen to your body. So if you're not feeling well, rather than delaying going to the hospital thinking that, yes, I can manage it on my own, seek help.